greetings from the pastor's study at Faith Community Church in Geneva. And I'm hoping that all of you had a beautiful Christmas, whether you're together with family or had to talk to them on the phone. Merry Christmas is always a great time to celebrate Christ. And tonight I'm going to be in Philippians chapter 4. And I want to remind you that in Proverbs 3 we're told, "In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thy paths." And so the paths are the issue tonight. And I was thinking about a movie that I've seen a couple times. Robert Duvall is in it, called The Apostle. And he starts this church, and he has a little bus and a one-way sign pointed, and he says, and he calls it the one road to heaven, one-way road to heaven. And I was thinking about that one-way road, and that got my mind thinking about a train and a train of life. And the more I thought about the train of life that we all are on and we follow, and I'm trying to make a spiritual connection or a concept of it. And the more I thought about it, I thought we're in a compartment, and we're on this train of life. But the more I thought about it, I thought I really ought to call it the love train. You know, we've all heard of the love boat. Well, this is the love train. And because how we should look at life is looking at God and his love, then look at life. But in reality, we look at life and then we hope God is there, or try to fit God in, or ignore God, or are very comfortable with God in some of the different compartments that we're in. But as I was thinking about the train, I thought, well, you know, God the Father would be the engineer. The Holy Spirit would be the conductor. He'd walk through the different cars and make sure we're okay and let us know where we are, that sort of thing. But of course the ticket onto the train is Jesus Christ. And the more I thought about that, I wondered about, reflected of when I was a child. My father was assigned to Japan, and so we were on a train from Kansas City to California. And it was an overnight train, and different stops we'd wake up and we'd look out the window and we wondered where we were at the time. And I thought about times of, you know, you wake up, say in the mountains of Colorado, and the views are fantastic, they're challenging. And as I thought about the mountains and the peaks in our lives, spiritually and emotionally, intellectually as well, in the Bible, the mountains are mentioned over 570 times, the mountain peaks. And what's ironically is the valleys are only mentioned a few times, because God really wants to walk with us both in the mountains and the valleys. But so much of our life are mountain type experiences or lifted experiences. But then sometimes we'd wake up out in the desert, out in Arizona. And if you think about that, waking up on a train, it's slowly passing through the deserts, how thirsty you might be or how boring it might be, and you just find life is uncertain at that time. But what's also interesting is biblically is how many times God sent people, believers, into the desert. For example, Moses was in the desert, David was in the desert, Saul had his experience in the desert, even Jesus had his experience in the desert. And we need to remember that God was with them. Even God sent them to the desert to understand how much they needed God. And then I also thought about, how about if you woke up in the swamps of Florida, or the largest swamp in America in Louisiana, and that could be threatening and scary. That could be isolated, and how long do you want to stay in that situation? Or you think about the mire that David talked about. He said, I've sunk into the deep mire where there is no foothold. But then that also made me think about poor old Jeremiah. He's just prophesying what God tells him to tell the king, and the king gets angry, throws him in prison. Then the people there get angry at him and throw him into a pit, into a hole, and he's sinking in the mire. I love that story. He was so far down in this pit where there's nothing but mire and swamp. They had to tie ropes together and send him down to him, and he put him under his arm and pulled him back up. Well, can you imagine what he looked like? He was down there without food or water. He had some bread sent to him. But then he's pulled up, and here's a man of God. Well, he didn't look very godly, but while he was in the mire, he knew that God was there with him. But I also thought about the train as it passed through the wheat fields of Kansas, and how that's the breadbasket of the world, not only of our nation. And Jesus himself said, take, eat, I'm the bread of life. He that partaketh of me or come to me will never hunger, never thirst. And so while we're on this life's train, or this train, love train, we need to realize that God is with us no matter how fast the train's going, or how slow the train's going, or the situation that's around us. God never changes. But many times our attitude or our awareness of God does change. Sometimes, and generally in our lives, we know that we're walking with God. Thank the Lord for that. We know He's present. We know we're right beside Him, and He's there to encourage us and comfort us and direct us. But other times, you know, whether it's a desert experience that we all have, or whether it's a visit to the swamps that we dread and not want to be in, God is still there. So we can ask ourselves, what state are we in? What compartment are we in? We can look out the windows and see the situation, but we know that God is there. So no matter what state we're in or what we're experiencing in our life, God is in control. He's still the engineer. He knows where that train's going. He knows where you are, and He knows that He will keep in contact with you. So I'd encourage you tonight, stay on the right track. Stay in the right compartment. And as we pass through life situation, we pass through at different speeds. And we need to realize that God is there no matter what the situation. The nice thing, the promise that we have, which is our eternal hope, is that we all are going to arrive at the right destination. You're going to arrive at the right destination with God's timing, God's understanding, and God's ministering to you. And I'd like to read out of Philippians chapter 4, 11 through 13. Not that I speak in respect of one, for I have learned in whatever state I am, in this to be content. So whether you're on a mountain high, or whether you're in a desert experience, or maybe you're in a swamp mire experience, or maybe you're just fat, sassy, and full of Thanksgiving and full of Christmas dinners, and you're happy with your family, and no matter what state you're in, I know both how to be abased and I know how to abound. Whether you're being blessed abundantly, or whether you're abased and you think you're isolated and all alone. Everywhere, in all things, I am instructed, both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so we need to realize that God indeed is with us in all situations. So back to the love train, look at our lives. I really encourage each of us to look at our lives through God's love onto the track of life. Not to look at the track of life and then try to find God. Sometimes we know He's there. Sometimes we're very comforted. Sometimes we're very assured of that. Then other times we kind of wonder, where is He? Or where's He taking us? Or what's the outcome? Whatever it is, as we follow God in faith, in love, and hope, God says He's there. And so whether you're blessed or whether you're uncertain, God is with you. So think about this. Think of life as being the love train, and you're looking through God's love at every situation in your life. You're looking through God's love and then at the situations in life. You're looking at God's love and then looking at the surroundings. Look at God's love first, then look at life. So I bless you tonight. I hope God's love is ministered to you. And remember, love, love, love. That's what Christ is all about.